So there you go. The Liberal senator suggests a lot of people have a problem with this, Piers, with same-sex parenting.
I think this is a story that should be handled by the women's magazines, Barry. I really think it's a matter for Miss Wong and her partner and whoever the sperm donor was.
Is there any implications for Julia Gillard in this sense that is there inconsistency between the position that you'd be opposed to gay marriages? Do you then, by extension, be opposed to gay parenting?
Well, it's parenting out of wedlock unless you support gay marriage. And do you support parenting out of wedlock? Look, Piers is right. I don't think this boulder dropped in the pond and there was barely a drop of water emerged from it. People are more accepting of this sort of thing. They know it.
I don't say they're happy with it, though, Malcolm. It's just it's happened.
But look,
I mean, they're wealthy people. One would assume. Nobody dislikes children, and one would assume that this Miss Wong and her girlfriend are pretty well placed in society to give the child everything they can, but they can't give it a father.
Well, you know, when you look at the usual suspects they had to go to find anybody who's willing to sort of complain. I mean, Fred Mile, give us a break. And a bunch of Catholic nasties who, you know, running down the line of, you know, the Catholic family. But Miranda Devine this morning, also in the Herald Sun, is able to explain what's gone wrong in London, the burning in London. This is a full frontal attack on Penny Wong and her partner for having a child. You only had to see the burning streets of London, writes Miranda Devine, last week to see the manifestations of a fatherless society. That's just balmy. I mean, this is absolutely wonderful, and this country is looking more. This government is looking more and more like Australia. You've got a de facto running the government. You've got a lesbian senior minister. She's having a baby with her partner. This is starting to look like Australia. It's fantastic.
Okay, let's move on.
I'm totally confused by what you're trying to say.
We'll move on to an issue we might get some agreement, asylum seekers. But the day after Tony Abbott returned from holidays, another boat turns up at Christmas Island. So he goes on the Today Show for his usual Friday routine, and this was the first question.
Tony, a very good morning to you. It's all a bit of a mess, isn't it? Free hit. Off you go.
So that was the question, and off he went. But it's the timing of the timing of the boat at the end of a week where they had an aircraft sitting on the terminal there for a few days and was supposed to deport people, never did. The High Court challenge came up. It wasn't a good look.
No.
Look, the government has lost control of the politics of this issue, as it has on many other issues, and therefore it's reduced to this very strange sort of mechanism it's created. Any government who started off with a blank piece of paper, said design a system to deal with asylum seekers, would not come up with the mishmash that this government has come up with at the moment. Why is it a mishmash? Because it's been unable to resist the political pressures on it, and thus we get this sort of dog's breakfast
Barry, this all
approach.
This all goes back to the fact that they didn't like the fact that John Howard had a successful policy in place. And they dismantled that, and David, the boat people started coming again.
The principle, though, that goes before the court is precisely that would have applied to Nauru. It's not about specific to the Malaysian agreement. It's about whether or not people should be processed before they're deported.
Right.
There is no difference between that principle and that applied to Nauru.
Not quite. Not quite.
What's the difference?
The court case is really about whether the kinds of decisions that Chris Bowen as Minister is taking here are the sorts of decisions that can be supervised by a court, or whether they're the sorts of decisions that can be left entirely to the Minister. And there are two sets of decisions, and these come up under Australian migration law. And the first set of decisions is whether Malaysia can be ticked off by the Minister as a tickety-poo kind of country in which to send asylum seekers to have their claims assessed and to be protected in the meantime. Now, if the Minister is allowed to make that decision on his own, then they're home free on that point, and the same kind of thing would apply to Nauru, I agree. But even the Department of Foreign Affairs documents, which are now before the court, show that the view of the Department of Foreign Affairs is that there is no guarantee of assessment and no guarantee of protection while they're there. Then there's a second set of questions. And they're the questions about Chris Bowen's Chris Bowen's responsibility as the guardian of the unaccompanied children.
Yep.
And that's a much tougher set of questions. Then there is the set of questions about what happens to the people before they're sent there, and that's not before the court. That's much more a matter of a deal with the UNHCR, which has yet to be nailed down. And the UNHCR is furious that that has not been nailed down.
Well, Chris Bowen is saying, don't get ahead of yourself. This is just an interruption. It's not the end of the game. Here he is.
I'm confident that when the full bench considers the case, the injunction will be lifted, the transfer will occur, and the arrangement will be implemented.
They didn't get off to the best of starts, though, did they, the initial hearing?
No, but Julia Gillard was confident that East Timor was going to take these people. I mean, this thing has been an absolute dog's breakfast from day one.
But I still go back to that point, though. The principle, Piers, about deporting people without giving them an opportunity is no different to what applied in Nauru.
But I think that's one of the flaws in this plan particularly.
But the difference, one of the differences is that 4,000 people came out of Malaysia. 4,000 people don't come out of Nauru.
Yeah, but the other thing is that when they were on Nauru, they remained in the custody of the Australian government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess so.
And that is an important point. I mean, you know, they were jailed on Nauru by the Australian government. Lawyers couldn't get to them, journalists couldn't get to them. They were jailed there on this rock in the middle of nowhere. In Malaysia, they'll be free in the community. Now, neither is necessary. I mean, we have a small problem of boat arrivals in this country. We can deal with it in this country. This whole, as Malcolm says, the politics has got wildly out of control on this. We don't have to be doing any of these things. But now, of course, Manus Island is going to be reopened as a place to send people. And we've got to be clear about one thing. One thing we have to be absolutely clear about Manus. No one will take them from Manus except Australia. We are going to take them there. We are going to intercept them. We are going to take them there. We are going to house them. We are going to process them. And that small group of countries in the world who, like us, take refugees from refugee camps, their view, they think Australia's attitude is bizarre and demeaning. They are not going to take a single person. Everybody who goes to Manus will come here.
But, you know, the whole thing goes back to, you say this is not an ideal solution. I totally agree with you. But what is your solution? Do you still want to have people risking their lives coming in boats and dying off Christmas Island?
There is no need. Let's look at what the real problem is that requires a real solution. And that is a small number of people coming down here by boat, travelling here as they do everywhere in the world. You know, refugees travel by air, they travel by land, they travel by sea.
And they die by boat.
They come here. And it's dangerous. And
so
it's a dangerous
you're
journey.
happy with that?
And I would wish them to come in other ways, but they do come by sea. And the things we do to try to deter them and punish them are unnecessary. We don't have to do it. We can just process them in a humane way and get on with it.
If they survive that boat voyage, which you won't deter?
Piers, the voyage is dangerous and people have died.
And you're happy for it to continue?
You are not taking your stand because of safety of life.
Oh,
at
thank
sea.
you for
You are not.
Thank you for interpreting my motives.
I think
here,
I
David.
can.
Thank you.